Our last little topic of pericardial disease is one in which I need you to think of it as being a continuation. You don't underestimate this lecture, nor do you overestimate it. You get the fundamentals, and then once you do, then you'll understand the concept of constrictive pericarditis. How many times have you thought to yourself, my goodness, this seems like it's restrictive cardiomyopathy or a restricted type of disease, but then you have choices of whether it being constrictive or not. Well, let's make sure that we're completely clear about your diagnosis of constrictive versus restrictive and what that actually means. So, with constrictive, what is it? Point being, chronicity. If it's a number one thing that you take out of this entire lecture for constrictive pericarditis, chronicity. What do you mean chronicity? By chronicity, well, remember when we talked about rheumatic heart disease? Do you remember when we talked about cirrhosis? Do you remember when we talked about the concept of fibrosis? What does that mean, Dr. Raj? It means the following. When we had rheumatic heart disease, initially, early on, you had vegetations that resulted in what kind of valvular heart diseases on the left side, most commonly. Early on, acutely, it was regurg, and it was vegetations. But then what happened chronically? Well, you introduce damaged goods. And so therefore, when something gets damaged, what happens? You have to go through a repair process. Tell me about cirrhosis. With cirrhosis, well, cirrhosis, end-stage liver disease. Maybe it was alcohol. Maybe it was autoimmune. Maybe it was viral. Maybe it was non-alcoholic, right? And so therefore, any one of those at some point results in a chronic type of condition of fibrosis of the liver. Or if it's honeycomb appearance of your lung on chest x-ray, what does that mean? Increased fibrotic deposition of the septae, right? So when you say chronicity, and when there's initial damage, you are going to start depositing more and more of your collagen, resulting in increased fibrosis. Is that clear as far as it being a concept? Once you do, then you'll understand constrictive, okay? Because you can't bring in constrictive immediately if you don't have the fibrosis. Maybe you can have restrictive, granted. All right? So there's a certain amount of restriction that might be taking place, but still not fully fibrotic, not fully calcified. Once that occurs and it's fully calcified and fibrotic, now what is the description? The fact that, oh my goodness, you have a chick in an egg that wants to now explode. It's ready to come out into the world, okay? But it's in an egg. Okay, granted, you want that egg to break so that, the creature has freedom. But that's not how the heart works. There has to be proper expansion. Granted, my goodness, it should never be an eggshell. Do you get the point? So think of the heart encased in an inexpandable eggshell. That is not a good feeling. In addition, think of the eggshell as being white so that you understand that is severe constriction. That's a lot of fibrosis and calcification. How incredibly convenient that it's calcium and it's white. Let's continue. The scarred or calcified pericardium squeezes, constricts the heart. Is it restricted? Of course it is. But clinically speaking, you must diagnose this as this being what? Constrictive. Are we seeing this now? So as I said earlier, how much attention do you pay for this lecture? Well, quite a bit so that you understand the concept. But once you do, then it becomes a very easy diagnosis, as you can see. Let's talk about constrictive. So what these arrows are showing are those parts of the pericardium in which it is undergoing pericardial calcification. Do you see how incredibly white, opaque the pericardium has now become? This is constrictive. Did this occur acutely? No. Chronicity. With chronic buildup of fibrosis and calcification, dystrophic, right, damage first, then accumulation of calcium, you're going to find that increased opacity, as we see here in our chest x-ray. You have basically an AP view, don't you? Anterior posterior view.